Hey, everybody, welcome in. Good evening. I'm so excited to be with you guys on tonight. It's going to be such an amazing time to all of my city church of Goldsboro Lifers. Welcome in. Please take this moment. It's going to be an impactful time. We're going to be journeying into financial freedom. And so take this moment really quick to share this so that your friends can be connected, so we can get some amazing things said to us tonight. All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Really quick, let me hear from you. Put some fire in the chat if you're ready to receive financial freedom as we receive this incredible information. But really quick, this is day two of our 21 days of fasting and prayer. We are setting aside this time to consecrate, to deepen our walk, to seek God in a different way, all along fasting financially. And so, to all that are joining in, just want to give you a reminder really quick what that looks like. And if you're not part of the City Church of Goldsboro, it's okay. We want you. If you want to join in, if you're looking for financial freedom, if you're looking to deepen your walk with God, why not join us? And so there's some couple things I want to share with you really quick. Number one, during this month, during these 21 days of fasting, we are asking you and encouraging you to honor your appointments. If you want to do like I do, I use my clock, my alarm, and I'm getting up at 7 and 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. to making sure I honor my appointment. So whatever that looks like for you, I want you to do that. So number one, I want you to honor your appointments. And then what we're doing is meeting weekly for our prayer gatherings called Altar. And to those that have already experienced it, I'm telling you, it's something happens when you are in the room, when the presence of God is in there. Okay. So we want you guys to make sure you are plugging in even our weekly prayer gatherings. Secondly, I want you guys to remember that we are sacrificing one thing of choice. So whatever that looks like for you, if it's coffee, if it's sugar, if it's soda, if it's social media, whatever it is, we want that to be a sacrifice for you. All right. And then this month, 21 days, we are saying no. Somebody say no to non-essential spending. So listen, today, Tuesdays, are kids eat free at certain restaurants. You want to make sure you are investigating and you're finding out how you can save money. This is not necessarily that you can't go out, but maybe use a coupon or just using wisdom and just cutting back. And we're saying no to essential spending. And then making sure you guys are also coming to our weekly meetups, which our first one is tonight. And I'm super excited because we are going to get educated on just some real estate information and home ownership opportunities and what that looks like. But before I do that, I have two incredible special guests that are going to come and just bless you and encourage you and give you the tools to journey through financial freedom, all things real estate, and all things home ownership. So if you do me a favor, will you clap your hands and will you welcome James Jones and Thais Duncan? Come on, yes, there you go. There's my smile. Yes, Pearly White. Yes.
What's up,
Welcome
family?
in, guys.
Hello.
First of all, thank you so much for just being a part of this. Thank you for loving us enough to just share your knowledge when it comes to real estate. There's money to be made. There's money out there. And so we want to get educated. One thing I do like about the City Church is we want to see the whole man win. And so, yes, we want you to be spiritually inclined. We want you to be physically well, emotionally well, but we want financial freedom so that we can leave legacy for those behind us. Amen.
Amen.
So
Amen.
before we dive into that, I want to take a moment because the way PT blessed us on Sunday, I want to take a moment and just talk about Sunday's message, if that's okay. And then we'll segue into all things finances. And really quick to all my people on the chat, we're going to just take a moment and just talk about the first message this Sunday, louder than words. PT came with a vengeance. So many nuggets, so many takeaways. So I want you guys, even in the chat, take a moment and just think about, look at your notes. I see you, Brenda. Yeah, look at our glasses. Don't we look educated? Yes, we look educated. But yeah, just I want to hear your takeaways. I want to hear how the Lord blessed you on Sunday. What is something that PT just shared that just resonated in your spirit? I want to hear it. So really quickly, Sunday, he unpacked Luke 17, 11 and 19, and it talked about the 10 lepers. And really quick, I just want to share it. Basically, they were passing through Samaria and Galilee, and they entered a village, and there were 10 men with leprosy. And they stood at a distance from God, from Jesus, and they said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on me. But when he saw them, he told them, go and show yourself to the priest. And while they were going, they were cleansed. Verse 15, but one of them, seeing that he was healed, returned with a loud voice, gave glory to God. He fell face down at his feet, thanking him, and he was a Samaritan. Jesus said, wasn't there 10 cleansed? Where are the 9? Didn't any return to give glory to God except this foreigner? Not even a Jew, it's a foreigner. And he told them, get up and go on your way. Your faith has saved you. PT mentioned about how these particular men had to exclude themselves, being in their own community, being away from family members, community, and they had to be amongst themselves. And it just really, one of the big takeaways for me was this, when we can't find him, he will come and reach us.
Yes.
So he will come to us, even when we feel like we feel excluded, we feel isolated. We have to remember these people were, completely, their sores, you can see their bones. And it just reminds me, it don't matter how far we feel like we are away from God, he is right there. Can
Yes.
either of y'all speak to that?
Yes. I would say, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've experienced that on my own. And I would say one of the takeaways for me was when PT mentioned that when we continue to be faithful to God and obedient to God, and obedient in the things of God, then we'll mess around and find out.
You're going to mess around and find out. One thing I
Right.
know, I think I have messed around and find out that he is a miracle worker.
Yeah.
Listen, somebody said you better mess around and find out. I've messed around and find out that God can do the unthinkable. He can do exceedingly and abundantly. But sometimes I will tell you this, sometimes it takes death in order to win.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it takes dying to, ourselves for us to win. And sometimes we can be in a situation with like, oh my God, I don't see this. I don't see me winning in this. But it takes us dying to ourselves, dying to pride, to see victory on the other side, right?
Yeah.
So another thing that he had mentioned was there's always a miracle in the miracle.
In the miracle.
So we know that these guys that had leprosy had a disease, an incurable disease, but they could still see, as PT said, they could still stand.
Yeah.
They can still, they still had a sound mind and they could speak. Yeah. And that was so big for me, because how often do we get so consumed with our little problem that we forget about the things that God is doing for us? We can be so glued to that problem that we're experiencing, but God, he woke me up this morning and started me on my way. I have
getting churchy now.
I have activity of my limbs. We always forget about the little stuff that God does.
Simple things.
Yeah, we look at our problem and it becomes so big and it becomes so magnified in our life that we forget that we're still standing. We don't look like what we've been through. Even though that situation could have took us out, I still have a clear and sound mind. That whatever situation is, financial situation that you didn't expect, or divorce, or that relationship that was severed, we can magnify that situation that we forget about the things that we already have.
Yeah,
absolutely. You said something earlier, and I thought about an old song that says he reached way down and Jesus to pick you up. I think that this message was a message of maturity.
Yes.
And it really challenged me to look at life from a different perspective and from a different lens. Like you said, we talked about the leopards, the one that was mature enough to come back and tell God, thank you, right?
Mhm.
And then too, as well, going back when Pastor Terry made a comment of like, although you may lose one thing, you don't lose everything.
That's right.
And we all deal with life. We all have situations and we all have circumstances. But when we look at it from a different perspective, as long as I'm still breathing,
Mhm.
as long as I still have breath in my body, as long as I have the activities of my limbs, the stuff really doesn't matter.
That's right.
Because when we look at life, there's somebody else on the other side that is struggling way worse than us. So this was just a message of maturing. And when we think about faith, to me, faith isn't just about, oh, I want God to bless my finances. Like, God, mature me in a way to be able to see you. Going back to our series last month, like looking and learning the characteristics of God and growing in our faith from there. So
good.
It
And
challenged me.
Good. I think when we have that faith, we're even when we're in situations or circumstances, we should be looking for God to do something.
Yes.
Even with PT, with this time, I want mess around. Okay, enemy, you trying to lift up your ugly head. I see what you're doing concerning my child. I see what you're doing concerning my marriage. I see what you're doing concerning my mind. And that is it's in those moments you got to go back. Okay,
Yes.
You got to go back to the things that God has done for you and say, okay, you want to mess around? You mess around and find out what God can do in this situation. And so we can't. Go ahead.
And can I add too that when you are a son and you are a daughter, you have expectations for your father to intervene.
Yes.
If my children was to get into something right now, they have expectations that either myself or Kayla is going to intervene and fight for them. And I think that when you are a son and a daughter and the efforts that you put into, being the best Christian and being the best believer that you can be, like I walk around in life with expectation that God is going to come through somehow, some way, some form, and some fashion.
I think all of us have experienced this mess around and find out. If you can dig deep, for me, you guys know this story. It took me 4 years to conceive. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, but God messed around and showed me that He is almighty. For you, it could be, whatever it looks like for you. That's why it's so important to go back and remember the things that God has done and knowing that He's faithful in every season of our life. There's another thing that PT said too. He said, grace is when the Son of God chose to make company with those living with the wrath of God. I'm just so grateful, even in my mess, even in what I've done, that He chooses to continue to chase after me. When I have deserved the wrath of God, when I have been, I guess we're talking about leprosy, been unclean and doing things that have not been pleasing to God. But it was His grace that covered and kept me. So listen, mess around and find out that He's a way maker. Mess around and find out that He's a provider. Mess around and find out in these next 21 days that God's going to turn around your finances because of your sacrifice and because of your yes. All right.
So mess around and find out.
Mess around and find out. Mess around and find out. So I'm telling you, I just wanted to take a moment and just unpack just that message. It was, like you said, it was so timely, mature. It just reminded me that it don't matter where I am in life, that He is with me, He is for me, and I have seen Him work in every season of my life. If I have anybody to agree with me that He has worked in every season in your life, I want you to put some fire in that chat. I want you to tell me that you've messed around and saw God do this. I've messed around and saw God do that. I have messed around and God changed the trajectory of my life. I want to hear it and I want to see it. All right.
Can I say one more thing, Lady J?
Say one more thing.
And I even think too, when you think about just the concept of faith, it reminds me of someone taking a match. And you know how you used to have the little matchbox, and you used to always attempt to strike it, hoping that at some point contact will ignite a fire. And I believe, like, even in this season that we're in with 21 days of, fasting and praying, like, you keep striking that match. Like, you keep striking that match, and you're going to mess around and find out that a fire is going to exceed beyond your expectations,
That's so
beyond
good.
what we can think and, even imagine. So,
Amen. And I think also we're going to mess around, find out when we take these times to honor our appointments with God, that He is going to give us just things that we haven't even experienced, the mysteries of God.
yes.
Like, I feel like there's so much more that I don't even know about God yet. And it's going to take taking a pause, being intentional, finding space with Him, and praying, and just allowing God just to speak to you. I just think there's so much that God is wanting to say, but sometimes life is loud. Sometimes we are busy and we are distracted, and it's in those moments where we are devoting and we're committed, that when that alarm goes off, I don't care what's going on. I don't care the noises of life. I'm going to shut all that down. And God, I want to hear from you. And is it in those moments God begins to reveal things? God begins to give you clarity, and then you will then He gonna mess around and tell you the things that He has called you to do in the season that you're in. He is gonna tell you things are gonna happen that nobody doesn't even know about, because you took time to consecrate. You took time to devote yourself in prayer. And I'm telling you, that's what I'm looking forward to in this next 21 days of prayer and fasting. I'm not just doing this to go through the motion. I'm believing God's going to do something in my life, for my life, share things in my life, show me things that I need for my next season in my life.
Amen.
So I truly believe, as we navigate together, and listen, those that are connected on this live right now, you may not be connected to the church, but listen, we want you to connect with us, because I believe through these 21 days of prayer and fasting, God's going to do exceedingly abundantly in your life. Amen. And so, all right, so we're going to segue into our real estate combo, home ownership combo. Listen, I am believing for financial freedom. If you are believing for financial freedom, if you're believing for God to put His super on your natural in these 21 days, come on, I want you to put some fire in the chat. I am believing for financial freedom. And sometimes that comes through education. Sometimes that comes through knowledge, because a lot of things we just don't know. And so we here at the City Church created a space for you to ask all the questions. At the end of our conversation, we're going to do a Q&A, and we do want you guys to go ahead and prepare for your questions. And at the end of our conversation, we want you to ask us whatever you want. I may not know all the answers, but I'm pretty sure that our real estate home ownership gurus do. Okay. So, all right, let's get started. So the first thing I want to ask to the both of you guys is, first of all, how long have you been serving in this industry? I'll start with you, James. How long have you been serving in this industry?
Man, I got into real estate in 2018, so I'm working on year 7 of real estate with my baby face.
And it took you a minute to get there with all the jobs. Praise.
It did. Yes, ma'am. 7 years.
7 years. Okay, Thais.
I actually got my real estate license in 2019, but I actually started practicing and working in 2020. So I would say 4 years for me.
Okay, cool. All right. So we got some years under our belt. So let me ask you this. What moved you to get into this industry? What moved you to get in this industry? I'll start with you, Thais.
So growing up, my grandfather used to purchase homes, and he had a lot of investment properties. He used to flip properties, rent them out. And so I used to tag along with him all the time, since I was a little kid. And we would go to these houses, and I would watch him kind of just take things apart and rebuild them. Mm-hmm. And it would be the oldest, ugliest house. And he would just make it amazing. Mm-hmm. And so with me kind of watching that and seeing that, I've always kind of had an interest for it. And I grew a love to love houses. And I would even in my spare time growing up, go look at houses. I was obsessed with HGTV. So just from those things, I I really was like, you know what, I want to get into the real estate business, and so that's where I started.
Cool.
For me, I didn't know much about real estate. Growing up, I always thought I wanted to be an architect until I went to school, went to college, and I found out how much math I had to take. So I had to find another way to segue in. But as I grew older, I started realizing that there were myths that people were telling me about that when I did a little bit of research, it really wasn't true. So I really got into real estate because I wanted to provide knowledge of home ownership for people that look like me. And that was really, really challenging. So that's why I kind of jumped into the real estate game.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw you something that you're not expecting. You said people that look like me. Both of y'all look like me. So how has it been you selling real estate and being African American? How is that with your other counterparts? How has that been for y'all? Did you have to navigate some things?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, we're in a smaller community. Me and Thais both are in Eastern North Carolina. And honestly, when it comes to real estate, you will find that before like the big like fad of being a real estate agent was a thing, there were people who have been real estate agents for 20 plus years. So now we're having to, and I hope I'm speaking for you, Thais, in a bit. Now we're having to combat like years of experience, relationships, like family dynamics, and trying to weave our way in. And when I got into real estate, I mean, 2017, I was 22, 23, maybe, give or take. So I was already younger, probably older than that. I was already younger. So me having to try to approach someone who was 10 to 15 years older than me and me trying to explain to them how to purchase a house, and in their mind, they're like, you're wet behind the ears. So like, how can you expect for me to trust you when one, you may not even own a home, two, you're about the age of my kids, and three, like you don't have much experience. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
Would you say the same sentiments, Thais?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Okay, cool. Okay, so another question here. What are some of the greatest hindrances to considering home ownership for the general public and those you've been able to serve? So I'm gonna ask you again, what are some of the greatest hindrances to considering home ownership from the general public and those you've been able to serve? So I'll start with you, Thais.
Okay. I would say some of the greatest hindrances from what I've seen and the people that I've been serving so far, a lot of times is a lack of knowledge. People think a lot of times that they cannot purchase a home. They'll think they have to have so much money or so many other things that they have to work out. But like a lot of times when we sit down and we kind of talk to them about the affordability of a home, what it really takes to have purchase a home, which I know we'll get into a little later, but a lot of times I think it's really the lack of knowledge, because once they know and they understand that process, they can purchase that home. So.
Yeah. And I agree with Thais. I think the biggest thing too, the hindrance is having available funds. Of course, it costs to purchase a house, but a lot of times we can become so careless with our money that we will lean in a different direction for short-term periods of time versus kind of like looking at the overall picture of how we can really obtain like generational wealth through real estate. So for example, you may have an individual who had a new vehicle right now, or I can afford a house. Most of the time, and of course this is respected because you have to have a vehicle to be able to go to work and get money. But most of the time people would err on the side of, let me get the nicest vehicle, and then sometime eventually I'll purchase a house. So the hindrance is for our people, just thinking ahead, thinking like, for the future and thinking for the generation.
Would you say it'd be a better investment to invest in a home versus a car?
Absolutely. Vehicles, so it's a depreciating asset. So the moment you drive a brand new vehicle off of the lot, it has already lost value. However, real estate, it works in reverse. When you go and you buy a house, you gain equity.
That's right.
So a lot of people say, hey, I feel like this house won't be worth this in 10 years. Look at the trend of the market. The
Mhm.
market always gains and appreciates value. I mean, you can look at the cost of living right now. You may see a house today that's worth $250,000, but in 10 years, that house may be worth $350,000, $400,000. So to me, it's the way of the game.
Yeah.
You know, when I look at it, it's an appreciating asset. How is this asset going to help me gain generational wealth the fastest way possible?
That's
And
so good.
to be very transparent, I have a seller who is selling a house. They bought this house in 2020 for almost $280,000. We now have listed that house, and they're able to walk away with $130,000 in 4 years. You can't put your money in any type of stock,
No,
any type of investment account, and get that return on an investment in 4 years.
that's so
It makes
good.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
I
good.
would I want to kind of piggyback on that as well because I actually have some current sellers that I'm working with right now who purchased a home in I want to say 2019 and the interest rates were really low, prices were low due to the pandemic. And so we're actually getting ready to list that property and it's in Garner and it obtained so much equity from that time until now. They purchased that property at $280,000 as well, and now we're getting ready to list it at close to $500,000. So it obtains equity, builds wealth. So I agree with
Yes.
that.
And can I say something, Thais? You said something. I'm jealous because you're in the
Mhm.
Raleigh Durham area, and I mean, it's crazy. When you look at real estate, you have to put a house on a lot. You have to put a house on land. They're not making any land anymore.
Mm-mm.
So because they're not making land anymore, the odds are always in your favor. Even if you buy a house right now and it is in a worse area close to a highway, they're going to eventually expand that highway.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have an asset where now you have control. So if the state of North Carolina needs your house to be able to expand the highway, you control the cost.
Wow.
So again, it just makes sense.
Mhm.
I've learned so much in this little bit right here. Because going back to Thais, it's that whole lack of knowledge. If I can be transparent, when PT and I first got married, we were in an apartment, and we were maybe in there for about 6 or 7 months, and he was like, I think we can get a home, and I'm thinking, I'm looking at our finances, and I'm just like, I don't know, or maybe it's just not time. Maybe let's just wait, because I really wasn't knowledgeable about the whole home ownership. I just felt like and honestly, it was fear. It was fear, like, can we do this? Can we afford it? And little did I know we were able to do it. But there's some people out there just don't have the knowledge, and they're fearful. They don't think they have the funds. And so I'm right there. With those same people that wasn't knowledgeable or just fearful. So I want to ask you, like, how have you seen these hindrances being debunked? Like, how have you seen these hindrances being debunked?
I will say, so when it comes to the fear, a lot of times we kind of sit them down and we go through these home buying seminars, we have the consultations and just work with them through that process. Like I said, educating them on the process, discussing their debt to income ratios, which is extremely important. And people think a lot of times when you talk about debt to income ratios, they think because I may have student loans and, like James said, an expensive car, I have two things. I don't have a lot of debt. But when you look at what you're spending on that car and those student loans a month, so if your car payment is like $500 a month because you bought that expensive car, and then your student loans may be another $300-400 a month, that's the deductions that they're going to look at, versus somebody else may have 10 items on their credit report, but yet they may not have as much debt that they're kicking out every month. So if those payments are small, you look at your debt to income ratio, what you're bringing in versus what you're spending out every month. And so when you look at that, that's another way to help you to be able to be knowledgeable of how much home you can purchase and if you can even purchase a home.
Wow.
So
Yeah. And even to piggyback off of Thais, I would say it's important to find a real estate agent who you feel comfortable with. I've seen so many situations where people are afraid of giving you like the truth. And the truth is always going to be revealed by way of a loan officer. They're going to figure it out. They're going to find it out. But for me, and I can speak for Thais because I've worked deals with her too as well. You want to connect with a real estate agent who can hear you and can help you. Because if we have clients who come to us and they're not quite ready yet, we're able to connect them, provide them resources, and even help them hand in hand, walk them from not yet to now I'm able to purchase the house that I need. And to me, that's what's most important. And even like she said, lack of knowledge is simple. So a lot of times when people even look and say, hey, I have student loan debts or I have a car payment, debt really isn't bad. From a bank standpoint, they're like, I want to see how you can manage this debt. When you look at the word loan for face value, you're asking somebody to trust you with X amount of dollars.
Right.
And what they're going to ask you is how are you going to pay me back? When are you going to pay me back? And do you have means to help pay me back? If all of that makes sense, then it's simple. If you had a family member right now ask for you to borrow $20, those are the questions you're going to say, like, when are you going to pay me back? How are you going to pay me back? And do you have a means of or resources to help pay me back? So,
well, I hope not $20, maybe $150. $20.
Hey, we trying to get homeowners. Save every dollar.
$20. Okay, James, I'll let that slide. Okay, so here's a question for you guys. What are some of the primary issues that keep our community from home ownership? What are some of the primary issues that keep our community from home ownership?
Credit score.
Yeah. That's a big
Credit is critical. So when you talk about buying a house, you have two ways you can buy a house. The normal way, which most people do, is getting a loan, or individuals who have cash to be able to purchase a house. I'm not talking about taking a duffel bag to the closing table, but cash to buy a house. When you talk about credit again is about management. So you have banks who look at your credit score. Your credit score is categorized and it tells a story about you. So again, mentioning what Thais says, they look at like your account mixes, like, credit card debt, medical debt, car payments, student loans. And then they look at, how are you actually paying, like your activity of payments, your payment history. Are you missing payments? If you miss a payment on your car, you more than likely will miss a payment on a house. And they're looking at all of that to be able to tell your story. A lot of times when people are looking at their credit from a bank standpoint, they're looking at 3 credit bureaus and they look at something called a middle score. So they're taking 3 of the credit bureaus, they're adding them together, dividing them by 3, and that is your score. So if you have a 700, a 650, and a 580, it doesn't matter if the 700 is your highest score. They want to look at it all together. And a lot of people say, hey, my experience is great, but my Equifax isn't. Or my FICO is great, but my experience isn't. They look at it all. So I always challenge clients that I work with, before you get anybody to pull your credit, the first thing you need to do is go to Credit Karma or Credit Sesame.
Okay.
Or if you have a credit card, go to your credit card company's website, and it's going to tell you like what your credit score is. Typically, it's off 20 to 30 points, but it's a great gauge because now I'm able to see what the bank is seeing. So credit probably is the biggest thing that hinders people because, again, they're looking at it, trying to figure out how is this individual managing it. And then, too, if you don't have a credit score, you can even get something called manual underwriting. So there are some people who just never had credit. That doesn't stop you from purchasing a house.
That's good to know.
You just have to jump through some more hoops. Because what a lender is going to do is when they run like your credit to try to get you pre-approved, they're going to do an automatic approval. So you're really not going to have anybody looking at it. It's a computer-generated system. But if you don't have any type of credit, you're going to have to actually get somebody to physically look at your stuff to determine what type of home buyer you are.
Yep.
Wow. I did not know that. You said Credit Karma, and what was the other one that we need to look into?
Sesame, like sesame seeds.
Okay.
Maybe Sesame.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I would agree with that. I was going to actually say credit as well.
Mhm.
And back to talking about the DTI, because I deal with a lot of buyers who they may have the good job, they may make a lot of money, but if you're spending out a lot of money every month, it's not going to help you. I've seen people make so much money a month, and because there's paying out so much, you cannot qualify for a home. So I always tell everybody to work on your debt to income ratio, eliminate what you can eliminate, save money, pay things down. And like James was saying, keep your payments on time, no late payments, things like that, as much as you possibly can.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is it doesn't really matter the amount of money that you have, but it matters how you're managing the money that you have. Is that correct? Because I can
Yes.
have a whole bunch of money, but if I am just spending, they're seeing your track record. They're saying, no, they're not going to be able to do this consistently because they're dishing out so much versus somebody that maybe have some decent money, but they see they're saving, they're not dishing out as much. Okay, this person could qualify.
Yes.
So somebody that has a lot of money, like you said, bring it down, start saving, pull it back a little bit, gain that momentum, and then let's go from there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Yes,
that is
ma'am.
true.
Okay.
And even too, Lady J. So the way of the game with banks, they're going to request your bank statements. So when they look at your bank statements, again, they're going to see like your transaction history. And here's for my people who have a wad of cash at your house in a safe.
Talk
Get
about
that
it.
cash out your house.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you want to get that cash at your house is because it has to have a track record. Y'all talk about receipts nowadays. A bank wants to check receipts.
Yeah.
So if you are about to close and you have, if closing cost is $15,000 for you, and you're like, I got $15,000 in a safe, you just can't dump that $15,000 from cash into your bank account.
No.
Because again, from a bank standpoint, that's going to raise red flags.
Say
Because
that one more time. Say that one more time.
So it's going to raise red flags from a bank's standpoint. Because you're borrowing the money and they can't trace where this money came from. Yeah. So if you make this large deposit into your account, they're going to assume that you borrowed this money from somebody. Because again, the only way you can borrow money for closing costs is if you get a gifted letter. And a gifted letter simply says that so-and-so is gifting me this money without expectations of me paying them back. So you have to make sure that you are responsible enough to say, I'm going to put it into this account. Even with, if you got money in your Cash App, like they can see all of these, seriously, they can see all of these transactions, and you can get in the weeds of it, and that can make or break the deal.
Wow.
And even thinking about it too, we talk about payment history. We may have individuals who are renting. If you're a renter, they're going to probably request like a rental history too as well. So if you're late on your rent, that can hinder you too. And that can set you back 3 to 6 months. Wow. So again, you want to make sure that you're on time.
Well, let me ask you this: for that one, maybe that's not consistent, maybe have missed a payment here or two, or looking at their financial bank statements and they're seeing non-sufficient funds coming through. So say that's what they're in right now. At what point from there should they work towards purchasing a home? Is it 6 months? Is it a year of consistency coming from where they are to now? To at this point, at what point should, and Thais, you can answer this, at what point is a good point to say, okay, I think I'm ready to start this home ownership thing?
So when it comes to late payments and things like that, different lenders sometimes can bend a little, but I would say on average, they would say at least a year. Now I've seen some lenders that would say at least 2 years of no late payments. Wow. But I would say at least a year. So you want to have your payments on time for at least a year.
So that's important to make sure your payments are on time.
Yes.
So instead of buying the lashes, the nails, and the race car, focus on making sure your payments are on time. Is what I'm hearing. Okay. Really quickly, both of you, I want you guys to share a favorite client story, a potential purchase that impacted you personally as an agent. Share like a favorite client story, a potential purchase that impacted you personally as an agent. I want to hear that.
Okay. So I have maybe two at least, but I'll
Mhm.
touch on one. So I had this couple. It was an elderly couple
Mhm.
who I was just kind of having conversations with, and they were like, "We never owned a home before, and I don't think we can. We're kind of old now. It's too late." And so we kind of talked about it, and I went through, what the home buying process looked like, and I kind of encouraged them to just take a chance. Worst case scenario, they tell you no, whatever. So they took the step, and surprisingly, they qualified. They were nervous. I mean, I had to kind of go hand in hand with them, like James was saying, which I didn't mind. They weren't very tech savvy, so I had to go to their house sometimes late evenings, and we had to sit down and go through this paperwork
Yes.
together. But it was still very rewarding because, again, they were in their late 70s and thinking that, like, it's too late, I can't buy a house. And they purchased that home. They moved out in the country. They have a house now with so much land that they can just sit back and let their grandkids come by, and they are so proud. And so that's one of my favorite stories because it makes me think and tell everybody that it's never too late. It's never too late to purchase a home. You think just because you didn't do it in your 20s or 30s, even 40s, like, it is not too late. And it's not too late to leave that legacy and build a legacy for your family. So that's one of my
Yes.
favorite stories.
Oh, that's so good, Thais.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
For me, like Ty said, there's so many. I had one recently where I assisted a local pastor in purchasing a house, and he received, and this is for anyone who's watching, he received a 30-day notice of eviction. He was renting for 16 years. Would have never thought that he would be evicted, and come to find out, boom, they hit him with the letter, and we have 30 days to find a house.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even pre-approved yet. And when you talk about pastors, he was self-employed technically.
Mhm.
So we had to jump through so many hoops and play catch up with things that, again, lack of knowledge, he didn't know he had to know to get to this point.
Mhm.
And we got him pre-approved. We were able to get him down payment assistance. They were able to find the house of their dreams, and the rest is history. And I can remember when I called him, wasn't even sure if his offer was going to be accepted.
Mhm.
And it was a bidding war. And the seller said, hey, like, we intentionally felt like we should have taken this offer for some odd reason. We're
Come on
people of
now.
faith.
Come on.
We know the reason why,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that story right there ignited his faith and gave him life again.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, being able to help somebody go from just renting to ownership, like, transformed like my thought process and really gave me legs to continue walking, continue to be a real estate agent.
And I'm sure in moments like that, it ignites your faith because I know there's some low seasons of being a real estate agent. So when you have stories like that, it's like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to change the trajectory of somebody's life. They're building legacy through me. And so, man, those are incredible stories. Stories like that would make me go harder, for people. That's good. And the 70-year-olds have their own. Oh, man, that's everything. Okay, so let's get to the nitty gritty really quick. What are the advantages? Talk to that one that maybe is renting or an apartment or maybe considering home ownership. What are the advantages of being a home owner? I'll start with you, James.
Shameless plug, legacy. It's about building generational wealth. When you purchase a house, again, you automatically now increase your wealth, and you increase your net worth just through home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at renting, you're paying somebody else to either pay the mortgage or you're fattening the cow and put money in their pockets. Whereas now, when you own a house, you're able to pass something down to your children or even to your heirs. So I met with a family on Monday, and God rest their soul, they lost their mother. But their mother owned the house free and clear. When you talk about real estate automatically transfers to the next of kin. So now they're able to put $40,000 to $50,000 in their pocket when they sell this house per person, because she chose to own a house.
Wow.
And to me, like, that's the reason why. Like, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your spouse, do it for your children, do it for your nieces, do it for your nephews. Like, it's all about generational wealth.
So good. Thais, will you add to that?
Yes, I totally agree with that. Generational wealth for sure. You build in that equity. It's like your first time home investment. Like anybody that purchases a home, I tell everybody that's your first investment right there. You can do so much with that. You can take that equity, you can use it however you want to. You can buy again. Like you said, you can pass it down to your family and generations. I think one of the other things I would say is the predictability of your monthly payments too. Because when people are out here renting, they can raise that rent anytime. They can raise it month to month, whatever, So, I mean, so I would say in offering stability as well. So you don't have to, move when somebody else wants you to move or telling you your time is up. So
that's good, Thais.
And to be able to say, this is mine.
This is mine.
Yeah. This is mine.
Right.
Even like here at the City Church, this is mine. We're not having to rent. We're not having to be on nobody else's time schedule. This is mine. So those are some great advantages.
Yeah.
So Thais, really quickly, if meeting with a potential client who isn't personally ready for said reasons, what's a safe time frame for one may need to prepare themselves for qualifying as a buyer?
I typically tell everyone, depending on the circumstance, but I would say 6 months to a year. You can do a lot within 6 months to a year, depending on how hard you work and how bad you want it.
Okay, got you. Okay, you want to add to that, James?
Nope, she hit the nail in the coffin.
Okay, good. And also, what leading criteria should one meet in order to qualify as a buyer? What leading criteria should one meet in order to qualify as a buyer?
Man, there's so many. If I can think of one, consistent employment.
Okay.
From a bank standpoint, they want to at least see 2 years of consistent employment. And when I say consistent, if you are on your first job for 1 year and 1 month, and there's like a 2-week gap, and then you jump and you get an increase or you transition, that's still consistent employment. But if there is any type of lapse that's longer than 30 days, then more than likely you're going to get set back again, and you're going to have to wait an additional year or two. So again, just being consistent on your job.
Business owner. You're a business owner.
Great point. So business owner, making sure you file your taxes.
Okay.
Seriously, when you file your taxes again tell your story.
Okay.
So you want to be consistent in filing your taxes, not only being consistent in filing your taxes, but a lot of times business owners, they attempt to beat the system by taking losses. And when a bank sees that you take a loss basically states that you're not making any money. No one wants to talk about profit because you have to pay taxes back. But when you purchase a house, they want to see that you're profitable for at least 2 years. And anytime you take a loss, it again sets you back.
Good enough. Thais, you want to add to that?
I think James summed that up.
Summed that up?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm hearing consistency, being consistent, and being stable.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So lastly, how could somebody watching this right now can get more information to begin their journey towards home ownership? There's somewhere right now you can help them get the information that they need to begin this. Okay, now I'm ready. You've ignited my faith. I can do this. I'm on my way. Tell them what you do, how they can get connected, and so they can go into their next.
I have a website where you can go to thaisduncan.costello.com, and you can schedule a consultation with me there, or you can go on the social media platforms, Thais Duncan on Facebook, or Thais the Realtor on Instagram.
Okay, Thais, I live in Goldsboro, but you live in Raleigh. Could you come to me?
Yes, I could.
Awesome. So you're worldwide.
Well, yeah, the state of North Carolina and surrounding areas.
I'm speaking that to existence, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I
receive.
receive it. I receive it.
Okay, James.
You can contact me via email, info at legacybuilder.live, Live. You can go to my Facebook page, James Jones Jr., Legacy Builder, or I give you my phone number, 919-440-1689.
Okay, you better give out your phone number.
You don't find me, I'm going to find you.
All right. Good. Okay, so really quickly, man, y'all said a lot, and I'm telling you, I'm 43 years old, and I have learned some stuff that I didn't even know about. So I know tonight was impactful. If anything, it ignited somebody's faith. They're coming out of fear. They're wanting to build legacy. I look forward to the day where when I'm not ready to go, but when I do, my kids can say, "Wow, my parents thought enough of me to leave me with this, so I can continue on and do the same thing for my generation and generations to come." And so I'm believing again for every person that is connected. If this is your dream, it can come to reality. You just have to take the necessary steps. So really quickly, if you have a burning question, if you can just post it right here, we can see it. We're going to just set some time just for Q&A. Maybe there's something that we didn't hit on that you're just dying to ask for. This is your moment. No question is a bad question. Again, I didn't know a lot. And so at this time, if there's anything that you guys want to know, Austin, here it is. Is the criteria qualifications the same for investment properties if you already own a home? So is the criteria qualifications the same for investment properties if you already own a home?
Typically, yes. However, investment properties, you have to put more money down. And they typically want to see you put 20% down. And 9 times out of 10, you will only be able to use a conventional loan to be able to purchase a house. You have 2 options if you look for investment properties: a conventional loan. And again, a conventional loan, you have a higher credit score, you have the funds available to be able to purchase. Or you can go, which I'm not really a fan of, the hard money route. A hard money loan is a high interest rated loan. So hypothetically speaking, if the rates are 7% now, a hard money loan is probably 15 to 20%. And it's an investment property. So of course, the higher the interest rate, the higher the mortgage payment, the monthly mortgage payment. So the qualifications are different because now you're committing to saying that this is not my primary residence, but this is my secondary home.
Okay, awesome. Anything else, Tice, you want to add to that? He said everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then when it comes to investment properties, they also like to see that even though it's going to be an investment property, they want to know what you're going to do with it. Because let's just say if you have tenants that's going to live in that property and they decide to move out, who's going to pay for it? So that's another reason why the interest rates are higher and the down payments are much larger.
Awesome.
Yes, and even what Thais said too, a lot of times when you do an investment loan, they do a rent analysis. And they won't. So in your mind, you can say, I'm gonna charge them $2,000 a month, but they're going to send an appraiser out to figure out what is the going rate for the rent within the area. And you can charge as much as you want to, but again, if you're thinking about it just from where we're at in Wayne County, you have BAH, BHA, the base housing allowance, and they kind of go off of that. You have, Section 8, they kind of go off of that. So the government kind of controls how much you can rent houses for. And if it doesn't make sense from a bank standpoint, they're not going to say this investment is worth it, or they don't find value in it.
Wow. That's stuff I did not know. Wow. Good. Okay, I've got Ms. Sutton here. Are medical bills a hard factor?
Medical bills will not affect you with purchasing a home as long as you don't have them in collections. As long as you're making payments, you should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Yes, and when you look at your credit, when they do debt to income ratio, they look at your car payments, student loans, credit card payments, and your medical debt too as well.
Okay, say that one more time.
Credit cards, student loans, car payments, and medical. Those are the 4 factors when they do your debt to income ratio.
Okay.
So the debts, those four divided by your earned income.
Yep.
You do hair on the side, and it's not taxed. It's not earned income.
Gotcha.
Okay, so it's earned income.
Gotcha. Okay. Mr. Cedric here says, what factors do the lenders look for when applying for a home?
They're going to look for, like James was mentioning, the credit scores. They're going to look at all 3 credit scores and divide by 3, the median score. They're going to also look at your debt to income ratio, how much you're spending a month versus how much you're bringing in. And they'll look at your overall income and your employment history. So 2 years of consistent employment.
Very good. Very good.
Yes.
Awesome. Ms. Williams says, how many years should I wait to refinance, but don't want payments to go up? Been in the home for 6 years.
That's a hard question. It's how you gauge the market, right? So the best rule of thumb is looking at your current interest rate now and looking at the interest rate where it's currently at now based upon the market. And that would kind of like help you determine it. So if you bought a house 6 years ago and the rates were 8% and now they're at a 5%, you may want to reconsider refinancing because now your mortgage payment is going to drop. So you saw where a lot of people during the pandemic, they started refinancing because the rates dropped at an all-time low, 2.5%, 3%. So $1,800 month mortgage payment now is probably $1,100. So I recommend looking at your current interest rate and looking at the current market to make a determining factor if you want to refinance.
Yeah. Thais, you want to add to that?
No, he said it all.
Awesome. Ms. Best here says, with interest rates being as high as they are right now, why are you laughing, James? Is this
that's a real estate agent's favorite question.
Is this a really good time to purchase a home? I'll let Thais answer that first.
Yes, if you can purchase a home with interest rates being high and you can afford the monthly payments, then purchase your home. Because when the interest rates go down, as we were just talking about, you can always refinance. And then a lot of times when the interest rate starts to drop, the housing market starts to shift as well. So then the price of the houses go up. And so when you're then paying more for the house with a lower interest rate. And so you come out better sometimes if you are able to purchase your home when the interest rates are high.
That's awesome. Thank you. Did you want to add, James? You good? That's it?
I mean, that was a good point. I mean, I agree with what Thais said. I would say too, for instance, we can't gauge the way the market is going to be. And that's why I laughed at the question, because it's a really good question. That's a question that we always get. We can never control what the market is going to be. So for example, rates almost 3 weeks ago was 6.5%, 7%. And I'm on social media this weekend and they dropped to like a 5.7.
Yep.
So you really don't know. So now is always the best time, and you can always refinance at some point.
Yeah.
It's just a balance. And I want to say one thing too, Lady J, because we didn't get this question. When you talk about purchasing a house, you don't have to go to your bank.
Oh,
you can go to mortgage lending companies.
Oh.
If you are a member of credit unions, you can go to credit unions. And when I say mortgage lending companies, these are people who do mortgages all day, every day. So you have like Movement Mortgage, Model Mortgage, Atlantic Bay, Fairway. Like these are companies that focus on mortgages. And sometimes I tend to like to go to them more than just a general bank because they can bend the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
When you talk about banks like a Wells Fargo or a Truist, they're bigger organizations. So if they bend the rule for you, they have to bend the rule for everybody. And they can't because they're controlled by boards. Whereas if you go to a mortgage lending company or a local credit union, you can go and bring the branch manager their favorite Starbucks all week and they'll bend the rules for you. So don't feel like you have to go directly to your bank. And then too as well, the difference between getting a mortgage loan and a car loan, if you go to a car loan, oftentimes your credit will be pulled frequently. When you go to a mortgage lending company, what they don't tell you is they give you a 2-week grace period. So if you go to one mortgage company and you want to compare rates to another, it's not an additional ping on your credit.
Gotcha.
So we always recommend at least trying 2 to 3 mortgage companies because it won't hurt you. It's not going to hurt your credit score.
Yeah.
Man, these are some great, great, great nuggets. I think we're gonna leave here. I might buy me another house. So before we go, is there anything that you guys are just dying to share? Um, just one big takeaway, or just something that you want to leave with before we close. Thais, is there anything that you want to share
Um,
or
if I could
encourage?
share anything, I would say, even to my first time home buyers or people who have not purchased a home, don't be fearful because there's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of grants out there. I'm actually working with some buyers, and depending on what lenders you go to, just like James mentioned, doesn't have to be a bank, but there are lenders out here who actually work specifically with grant programs to help people, lower income families, things like that, to be able to purchase homes. They have like the DPA, the down payment assistance, for that you get $15,000 down on your first home. And then they have the CPLP. I know we have that in Wake County. I believe they can use it out there as well in Goldsboro, but you can get up to $50,000 for your first home. So sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge. Like I was saying, when you connect with the right people, and connect with the right lenders, you find out a lot of information. So don't be fearful to buy a home. Sometimes it just takes reaching out to the right people and find out the information. So
That's great, Thais. Thank you for that. James, anything you want
Yeah.
to leave us with?
Just piggybacking off of her, I believe what you don't know will hurt you.
Mm.
And I say that because the people perish by lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people are fearful because they heard stories or people told them otherwise. But it takes the right person with the right conversation, with the right heart to lead you and steer you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So even if you're not ready right now, 6 months from now, you may be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Get with somebody, let them help you journey to home ownership. It's the best thing. It'll change your life.
That's so good. And when you mentioned the lack of knowledge, I even thought about just also what people are used to. If they're used to their parents not having nothing and their parents not having nothing, that it's the mindset too.
mm-hmm.
You got to shift your mindset and say, I can do this.
Yes.
And I believe that it's greater for me. So listen, this time has been absolutely impactful. Thank you so much to my, I'm going to say, real estate home ownership gurus. These, I'm telling you, I put my stamp on either one of these two. If you are looking and considering being first time owners, or maybe doing something else, a different home, whatever, I highly recommend these two. They're very knowledgeable, but they have a heart of gold. They want to see people. It's not just about the money. There are some real estate agents that it's all about the check. These people really want to see people win. These people really want for them to build legacy. And so I am just so honored to be connected with you guys. And thank you guys so much for your time. I truly believe that somebody got something out of this. If you got something out of this tonight, please do me a favor. Tell Thais and James, great job. Give them fires on that chat. I like saying fire in the chat. Put fire in the chat. Put fire in the chat. Clap up for them. Just listen. I love everybody, but just to see people that look like me, they know what to say. They sound smart. They're knowledgeable about what they're good at. And so I'm even speaking blessings over your and I'm calling it your ministry because that's your ministry. Whatever you're building, I speak blessings over you guys. So again, thank you so much for this time. And I look forward to the next. This is our first financial meetup. We will meet again next week for something totally different. It has been beneficial. This Saturday, also, if you guys have time, come see us at 9 a.m. here at the City Church of Goldsboro. We're going to have our time of prayer at 9 a.m. And I truly believe that something happens when we pray together. Something happens when we come collectively. I pray that you had everything that you needed, that you learned something, and that you step out of your fear and know that there's something for you. Legacy is right around the corner. So let's pray. Father, I just thank you for this time well spent. I thank you for the knowledge that was just poured into us, God. I thank you that that right now, even as we're navigating through this fasting and praying, that you are helping us and guiding us to be better stewards with our finances. God, I know there's money in our lives that we might be wasteful in. Show us, reveal those things, God, so we can be better stewards of your gifts that you've given us here on this earth. God, we thank you. I thank you for every person under the sound of my voice. God, I speak to that one right now that have been fearful about just taking that next step. I'm praying and believing by faith they will take that step, knowing that home ownership is theirs. God, I ask you right now that just continue to renew their mind. And I speak the blessings of God over each and every one of them, God. Thank you for tonight. Give us good rest. We love you. And it's in your precious name that we pray. Amen. All right, guys, have a wonderful day or wonderful night. Know that I love you, but God loves you so much more. Be blessed.